I'm Abby,
And I'm Jenna.
and this is our project over the city of Berlin.
So Berlin's history, through our research, we found that there's five separate time frames. There's the early origins and medieval period, the rise of Prussia and imperial capital, Weimar Republic and Nazi era, then the division and Cold War, and the reunification and modern Berlin to end it. So first off, the early origins and medieval period. There were prehistoric settlements in Berlin of human activity that dates back around 60,000 BC. There were two Slavic tribes in the 7th century that inhabited the region, and the founding of the twin cities of Berlin and Cologne were first mentioned in the 13th century and then officially merged in 1432. Next is the rise of Prussia and imperial capital. This is where the 30 Years' War greatly devastated Berlin from 1618 to 1648. This reduced its population and infrastructure. Then in 1701, Berlin became the capital of the Kingdom of Prussia. This then led to significant urban and cultural development. Finally, was the German Empire following the unification of 1871. Berlin became the capital of the German Empire and experienced rapid industrialization and population growth. Third, we have the Weimar Republic in the Nazi era. Post World War I, Berlin became a hub of cultural innovation and political unrest. This was from 1919 to 1933. Following that is the Nazi regime from 1933 to 1945. This was when Berlin was central to the regime's operation and suffered extensive damage during World War II. Fourth, we have the division in Cold War, post-war division. After the Nazi regime in 1945, Berlin was divided into East and West sectors, becoming a focal point of the Cold War. Then the Berlin Wall was erected in 1961. This physically and ideologically divided the city until the wall fell in 1989. Finally is the reunification in modern era. In 1990, there was the German reunification, where Berlin was reinstated as the capital of a reunified Germany undergoing significant redevelopment. The Cultural Renaissance, which was post reunification, Berlin emerged as a global cultural hub known for its vibrant art scene and historical landmarks.
So, continuing on this cultural renaissance, we go way back to when West and East Berlin were separate. So, West Berlin was this thriving city that attracted artists and musicians, while East Berlin was still under restriction and desperately wanted to go to Berlin. This started protests in the form of punk, graffiti, and techno music. So, going off of techno music, they made or it made a positive atmosphere as many people were open to these new genres, and empty buildings, low rate buildings became locations for these people to meet and enjoy the music. This happened so often it became a subculture for people who didn't think they had a identity in the city, whose values didn't match what was being represented. And one example of this is Rave the Planet, which is on in the image on the right. And that's a large open air rave where thousands of people throughout the world come and celebrate their unity. This also emphasizes Berlin's social responsibility, environmental awareness, and cultural diversity. So there's other music in Berlin besides just techno music. It started with classical music with famous musicians such as Bach and Beethoven. There's also Caribbean music, which was a experimental style, and then later on, swing music arose, which was another form of protest against the Nazi Party as they disapproved of it. And then folk music also arrived with oompa bands, yodelers, and other forms. I also have listed other musics that have evolved over years in Berlin. Some examples are rock music and a early form of techno music. Depicted on the right again is another example of a festival that combines classical, electronic, jazz, rock, and many other genres. So how does this relate back to the contested spaces? So techno music was evolved from the Berlin Wall being built. Once the Berlin Wall fell, people felt unified, and techno music became a way of reuniting and feeling this unity and identity of place. Even though the institutional power and authority created these contested spaces of West and East Berlin, it was essentially a crucial part of how techno music evolved and became Berlin's identity.
Another part we researched was Berlin's kind of food, how that plays into their multicultural atmosphere. So Berlin is kind of like a hub for a wide array of international cuisines. So from places like the Middle East to Asian-inspired dishes, a lot of those play a huge part within the city's culinary diverse population. So a bit of that is evident within their cuisines, and during the post-Nazi era to the reunification, many immigrants were introducing dishes and often blending traditional elements with German twists, such as using pretzel-style bread is a huge example that's evident within Berlin's culture. Another huge influence widely throughout Germany is the doner kebab. In the 1970s, Turkish immigrants in West Berlin introduced the doner kebab, which is basically a traditional kebab, the grilled meat, but it's served on a sandwich and a flatbread with various toppings. This dish has since become a staple of Berlin street food with over 1,000 doner restaurants within the city. And then beyond that, Turkish cuisine has also enriched Berlin's food scene with offerings like desserts like baklava and Turkish delight. And then within the multiculturalism, tying back to the reunification, Berlin takes like great pride in hosting food festivals throughout the year and doing markets within their fabric with that. And then a huge instance would be the city's Christmas markets, which I personally lived in Berlin, or sorry, I've lived in Germany for a few years. So I was able to visit some of these Christmas markets within Berlin. And it does have diverse offerings, such as Jamaican and Argentinian dishes, as long as traditional German fare.
Cool.
Then here's our works cited page.